So far, we've talked about the classical views of the face. We've talked about the full face, the 2/3 of the profile view. We've talked about the classical lighting patterns. We've worked through some different areas and pointed out some places where we get some decent window light and so forth with our bride and groom. And we did a couple other pretty dramatic things down at the hotel. But in our location today, we want to do something different. We have this beautiful home that we get to work in today. And I want to just show just kind of some of the images I may take on a wedding day if we catch up with the bride at her home. Really, what I'd like to emphasize here is that even though I'm going to work in several locations throughout the home today, I'm not encouraging you guys and girls to do the same thing. We're doing this with the video so we can just show you all the different kinds of compositions that we can bring together in this location. What I would do on a regular wedding day with my regular client, I would survey the home, I would pick out some of the best features within the home, and then maximize the images that I would get from those couple locations. Again, it's not about us, it's about our client, and we need to be considerate and respectful of our client, of their time, of the excitement of the day and everything else, and not try to make it a photo expo of everything we can do in the home. The home does offer us a tremendous amount of variety here and so forth, and we're really going to try to maximize that for our video. So why don't we go ahead and get started. The first place I thought I would start today is really in front of the beautiful mantle. If we look at our bride's gown, I like how the texture of the gown is kind of picked up in the top part of the mantle, so we kind of get that echo in the textures right here, which I think is really quite lovely. When I set this up, it's just going to be a simple available light photograph. We have our large picture window right here, flooding light in on our bride. We have this beautiful soft light on her face, and I've just set my exposure up. I'm sitting right here at about 640 ISO. I could go down to 400 if I want, but then I think I have to compromise my shutter speed, and even though I'm using image stabilized lenses, I'm going to be a happy camper at 640. I'm going to be at ISO 640. I'm going to be at f4 as my f-stop, and it looks at a 50th of a second is where everything's falling here. I'm going to be shooting this in manual mode, and again, why am I manual mode? Because I have most control over my camera in manual mode. It's telling me I've got decent exposure. I've checked the viewfinder, checked histograms, and everything looks good to go here. I could put it on aperture priority, but as the camera picks up the lighter parts of the gown or the mantle behind her and so forth, that exposure can range up and down. There's no reason for it. Just nail it down. We're not going to move anywhere else, and we know we got good photographs here and good exposure here. When I look through the camera, what I've done too, and we've talked about window light, we've talked about capturing, putting that loop lighting pattern on our subject's face. What I want to do is, go ahead, Megan, and just kind of what you were doing, looking back at me a little bit. And when I look at the photograph of her, I've got a beautiful loop lighting on her face. You can just see on the camera side of the nose, we have this beautiful, beautiful light or shadow on this side of her nose. Megan, let me have you turn your head back towards me just a little bit more. And then if I take this photograph of her right here, and we look at this photograph, we have split lighting on her face. Why? Because she's looking directly at me. The light is coming in at a 90 degrees to her face, and it doesn't really flatter her. So Megan, let me have you turn your head exactly the way we were before. And I'm going to turn her nose slightly towards me so that I don't have the nose getting close to the cheek line, because if you remember me saying this earlier on, if the nose gets close to the cheek line, we create what we call the Pinocchio effect. It actually elongates the nose, which doesn't flatter our subject. There's another thing that let's just review again. Megan, just turn your head even more and more and more eyes back to me. And the other thing we don't want to do is really have the eye be hanging out in outer space. We always want that far eye to be kind of contained by the far part of the face. So I'm just going to kind of work this just a little bit more, bring your head back a little bit more, go back a little bit more right here. And I think that looks good. Now, I'm going to say one more thing about this. When it comes to window light, our light sources, it's a decent sized light source, but what most photographers really have difficulty really understanding or really seeing is how to put that light on her face. So Megan, I'm going to go ahead and just turn your head this way a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And yes, we're falling out of the 2/3 view, but the main thing to notice, turn your head even more. The main thing to notice is that I'm starting to lose that shadow on the camera side of the nose. And when we start to lose a shadow, that means I'm losing my loop lighting pattern. So I'm going to turn her head till I just start seeing highlight flood to the camera side of the nose. Then I'm going to bring her head back towards me till I just get the shadow, but I still have plenty of the camera side of her cheek. Let's say the cheek closest to me, closest to camera, still well illuminated. And that way when we look at the photographs, we can see that we really, really have a pretty light on her face. Another thing we can talk about, and I think this echoes what I've said in an earlier segment on this DVD, or this set, is that we have just a nice classic S line running all the way through the full length of her body. From the top of her head to the neck is one direction, from the neck to the waist is the other, and then from the waist to the feet. And we got just a nice gentle S curve running through her entire figure. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get our photograph taken. We've got her body turned this way, the light's coming in. We got great texture, great highlights next to shadows that we see in the gown. We've also got the bouquet, which is coming in front of the gown. And let me take the shot real quick, and you can actually see that we're throwing that bouquet shadow on the gown. And one thing that I'm always trying to emphasize is just bring it back just a little bit more, so I can just see it in the photograph, but the shadow isn't hitting the gown. And I think it just makes a more flattering photograph. So let me have you stand up just a little bit. That's good. Perfect. Chin down again. Turn your head a bit. Okay, back to me. And now as I take this photograph, the next thing that I'm seeing is that I have kind of a Statue of Liberty look. I've got the chandelier behind her head, and it looks a little Statue of Liberty-ish. So, Megan, let me slide you this way a little bit, just inches. Still kind of hand on the chair, kind of the way we were before. And I'm actually going to move my camera position over here so that I can actually have the chandelier, the wall sconce behind her on her left, and then mantle on her right. And again, looking into the light for me. Eyes back to me. Beautiful. Right there. I'm even zooming back a little bit more to pick up more of the mantle. Let's come in close on her a little bit. Happy, happy. One more. Turn your head away from me just a bit more. Beautiful. Even kind of looking down at the table maybe. Beautiful. And now turn your head even more, even more, even more. And I'm thinking, do I have a chance to maybe pull off a profile here? And I'm thinking the profile, beautiful lighting on her face, with the positioning of the mantle and everything there, we might get a nice photograph. So I'm going to rotate around her. The lighting is about where I want it to be on Megan, so I'm going to rotate around her and then see if we can pull off the profile. And then right hand just relaxing down. Your other right hand. Yeah. Turn your nose away from me again. Right there. Perfect. Here we go. Again. Beautiful. Hang in there. Now how about a little smile? And again. Bring the flowers a little higher for me. And we got a great series of images of her just by the mantle. Again, we could try a million other combinations here, but the house has so many cool features to work with. I think we got a couple cool things right here. You know what? I might even ask our groom to stand in. So now our lighting's going to change a little bit. Am I going to make it a window light photograph? You know, I like what I've got going on here with the mantle and everything, but my problem is that now this light coming in here is more of an accent light on them and so forth. So I may just choose to just throw some more light onto the scene. So I'm going to ask Aaron, my assistant, to come on in with the flash. Since the groom generally isn't at the bride's home for these images, we could actually have Christian playing the part of the father of the bride in this series. No smile from him on that one, I just noticed. Just hand in the pocket, just kind of good. And just kind of, Christian, you kind of lean in just a bit. Turn your head this way a little bit more. And I can choose to do a couple of different things. I've got Aaron with the umbrella ready to go. Why don't we go ahead and just try that one first? Aaron, I'm going to switch to 5/6 here because since I'm so used to using 5/6 whenever I use that umbrella, it's what I call my aperture of convenience. I know that our working distance right here. Aaron, I'm going to let you back up even a little bit more and maybe give me quarter power, sorry. Key to our bride, if you don't mind. Kristen, turn your head slightly. Good. And now what's happening here is I see my assistant's light in the window, and that's not going to be optimum for me, so let me go ahead and just change this right here. There we go. And let's see what that's looking like. And it's looking okay, but what's going on is I've got some weird shadows behind the bride. So you can take a look at the image. And I also have the reflector, or actually the umbrella in the shots too. It's actually reflecting in the mirror behind, above the mantle. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead, Aaron, and pull the umbrella. And I'm thinking, how am I going to overcome this? To get those shadows even softer, maybe not noticeable at all, I would have to increase the size of my light source. So the easiest way to increase the size of my light source is I'm just going to have Aaron hit the wall right over here. And now she's going to be about 6 or 7 feet away from this wall over here. We're going to get a cone of light coming out of that flash, which is going to give me about a 7 or an 8 foot area of light that's now going to be illuminating our subject. The opposite window, by the way, isn't in the mantle, so I'm not going to get any brightness from that. And let me point you more that way. Yep, right there. And because we've lost the umbrella, we have to really kick up the light. I'm going to say, why don't you give me half power out of that too, Aaron? There you go. And you guys right here. Good, good, good. We'll take a quick look at it. And I think it's looking pretty nice here. Just really pretty lighting. Good expression, you guys. Terrific. And yes, we do have some shadow falling behind her, but I really don't mind it at all because I think it is such a soft shadow. I don't think it becomes really too distracting at all. So just in this location here, we got some really cool images. We used a couple of different techniques. We just used window light number 1. We found out that the umbrella was going to give us 2 sharpest shadows on that background, so we broadened our light source by just taking the light itself, removing the umbrella, and just bouncing into the opposite wall to give us a huge light source coming back in and illuminating them. So I think we got some good things right here in front of the mantle.